But as far as the scouting aspect and the recruiting and we had none of what they have today. There was nothing. Scouts, you'd see scouts come to your games. Scouts would find out through word of mouth players around that area. That area scout. They get your schedule. They come and see you play, and it was awesome just to look over there and just see somebody tell you, "Hey, that's an Oriole scout over there." And you're kind of like, "Oh my God." That's just the way we thought as kids in high school and everything. I there was no telephone calls. You talk to scouts. The most in-depth scouting that I had done to me was by the Orioles because they were only like 45 minutes away. And they told me that if they had the opportunity to draft me, they're probably going to draft me maybe in the first round, being so close to Baltimore that, hey, if I get to the big leagues, I'm going to be a pretty good draw down from that Pennsylvania area and everything. Well, they didn't draft me first round. They took Rich Dower out of Southern Cal.
I was going to ask who they picked.
Yeah, and I said, well, that's pretty good draw for you. But this is later on, years later, and when I talked to some of the Oriole scouts that I saw earlier. But draft day came. I told Dad, I said, should I go to school or should I stay home? Because the only way I knew they were going to get a hold of me was the telephone. Dad said, go to school. Well, if something happens, we'll find out and we'll let you know and everything like that. So even on draft day, I don't know. There's no rankings. I don't know if I'm getting drafted. I'm told that I'm probably going to get drafted. When? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I go to school, 3 o'clock, school lets out. I haven't heard a thing because I'm watching the clock all day long. And there's no internet to try to follow what's going on. There's just no way to find out. I have a game that night, a high school game. I go to the game. About the sixth inning of the game, somehow I ended up on third base. But the inning ended. I'm walking off the field. My high school coach comes up to me. My dad's with him. And that's when they told me, he said, congratulations, you've been drafted in the second round by the Minnesota Twins. And I wanted to say, it's 7 o'clock. I mean, so I don't know. Second round would have been when? I don't know, noon, 1 o'clock. But that's the first that I had heard of it.
Wow.
And I heard it from my baseball coach congratulating me on it and everything. So
who was your high school coach?
His name was Richard Orwig, and he was a teacher. Good guy, kind of just laid back. Funny story. My freshman year of high school, me and another buddy, big boy, my friend Steve, we both decided we're going to go out for the high school team, go for the varsity team as a freshman. And we told Mr. Orwig that and everything, and he looks at us, and he was not a tall guy or anything, but he just kind of looked at us and didn't smile, didn't do nothing. He just, well, freshmen usually don't make their varsity team. But we can still try out, right? He goes, sure. So we tried out for the varsity team. We both made it, and awesome. Good guy, laid back, very smart, very intelligent baseball man. I enjoyed playing for him and everything, and good man.
How'd you become a catcher, Butchie?
How'd you end up behind
there? Tools of ignorance.
When I was 8 years old, I was really chubby. I was overweight. 9 years old, Dad got me into when you're overweight in Little League at 8, 9 years old, usually they put the slowest and the heaviest guy behind the plate. So I did some catching when I was 8, 9 years old. Didn't know what I was doing, but I put the tools on and go back there. Late 9, 10 years old, Dad got me into football, and I started losing. I had to lose weight to hit the weight limit. Probably the best thing that happened to me. So once I started losing weight, I started playing some third base and pitching because I had a good arm. As I moved up through Little League and everything, and I don't think I did much in high school until I was mostly a pitcher to third baseman. But here's where it gets funny, because I mean, this turned my whole life around. Basically, is Around this time, March, before my junior year, we're having practice. And there's a White Sox scout that walks out on the field after practice and gets my dad and I together. And I wish I knew his name. I don't know if he's still with us or not, but I owe this guy a lot. He was a tall gentleman. He's looking down at me, and my dad, and he looks at me and goes, "You want to play in the big league, son?" And I said, "Yes, sir. That's my goal." He said, "Well, take it for what it's worth." Now, this is a White Sox scout. I'm in awe of this guy. And he looks at me and he goes, "I think your footwork at third base is probably a tick short for the big leagues. So my opinion to you, and take it for what it's worth," and he turns around and he points towards home plate. He said, "If I were you, I would get behind that plate." He said, "A switch hitting catcher with a strong arm could go quick." And fortunately, Mr. Warwick, my coach and everything, agreed with him. So my junior year in high school, I started catching full time. I caught my senior year, got drafted. So I finished that year in Elizabethton. I caught my third year in Reno. So by my time I got to the big leagues, I'd only been catching 3 years. So if I would have known at that time when he told me that 3 years later I'll be in the big leagues, my God, I'd have paid him $1 million. But
Karnak.
Yeah, exactly. He said, your quickness for behind the plate is superb. Left, right. He must have saw me catch somewhere, sometime, or something for him to say all this stuff. But he said, "You have plenty of movement behind the plate. You got a strong arm, and you're a switch hitter. The good things can happen fast." And who am I going to tell a White Sox scout? No, I don't want to do that. But that's how I got started catching full time. And then 3 years later, I'm in the big leagues catching for Gene Mock with the Twins. I look back on that sometimes and go, it's just strange how things work out. And that was a good thing. It worked out for me.